Welcome to The Fiber, brought to you by LiveOak Fiber, where we weave together the stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and changemakers who are the very fabric of their communities. Join us as we spotlight those who embody the spirit of connection, resilience, and progress. Good morning, everybody. My name is Garret O'Leary. I'm the content creator here at LiveOak, and I am absolutely thankful to be amongst in the virtual building with Jody Craft, our president and CEO of LiveOak Fiber, and Steve Smith, our chief revenue officer. About a year ago, we did a podcast with these two, kind of just talking about where we were as a company. We had really quite literally just started construction maybe 6 months prior, and now we are quite a ways down the road from that. So we're just going to use this opportunity to kind of get their opinion on where we're at, and I have a number of questions ready for them, but we'll go ahead and jump in. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having us, Garrett. It's a great time to come back. It's been a year. I can't believe it. It seems like 10 years and it seems like a week all at the same time.
Yeah, really.
Really. Yeah.
I know, a year. Like that was, I remember we did that. It was one of the first ones we did in the studio here in Brunswick was the update we did last year. I agree with you. It could be 10 years. It feels like yesterday and feels like 10 years ago all at the same time. Yeah.
I thought it was for sure way longer than that. And then when I decided, I was like, I'll reach out to them and see if they want to do a podcast. I looked back at YouTube and I was like, oh yeah, we posted that July 24th.
Yeah.
So perfect timing.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so I mean, real quick, just to kind of give everybody that may be new to watching our podcast and getting to know you guys, let's take a moment to have you guys kind of explain your backgrounds, how you came to be where you are with LiveOak right now. But take a few minutes and just kind of introduce yourselves. And yeah, so Jody, we'll kick it off with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Jody Craft. My background is always telecom, pretty much. As a young boy in Louisiana, I joined the Air Force, and my career field in the Air Force was one that was telecom oriented, and the internet was being born at the same time, really, the public internet, and I got the chance to kind of, see a lot of great things happening early on and enter the industry that way. So, my background is product and engineering. So the largest companies in the world and some of the smallest companies in the world, I've had the pleasure of leading engineering and product teams. And then for the last 8 years before Steve and I formed LiveOak, we had Ronin Technology Advisors, which really advise the space at large on the wireline side of the business. So where we bury cables in this world, not wireless, we advised a lot of people like LiveOak, a lot of companies like LiveOak, and then a lot of some of the larger providers in the nation. So yeah, that's my background.
Awesome. Steve?
Yeah, I got into telecom in '97. I tell the story. There was a new company in town. They spelled their name weird. It was QWEST, and but I needed a job, and that's how I ended up in telecom. And it was just I haven't been able to leave it since then. But it was just so much fun. It was one of the, it just changed everything for me. We built fiber along railroads across the country. Tens of thousands of miles of fiber. And once we connected those cities, we were building within the cities, and then it was the customers. And it was a great time to be in telecom. And then fast forward to, what Jody talked about. Jody and I have worked at a couple places together. And before LiveOak, we did a lot of consulting in this space with, companies that had 15 people, 15, 20 people, rural operators that were, looking to expand, looking to build fiber, looking to add products to, some of the larger brands in the United States that we were part of. And so, yeah, I've just been blessed to be around, good people and have these good teams and find people like Jody and some of these other partners and just everything about networking is just amazing. I think the other thing that Jody didn't mention is he was with one of the first ISPs in the United States. So a lot of people today take the internet for granted, but back in the day there was like six.
Yeah,
That's it
it was
in the whole world.
too.
And everybody was standing all this stuff up at the same time. So you've got Jody background and go into it about building the core of a network, peering, routing. And then you had, what my company was doing was just massive amounts of fiber optic, massive amounts of connectivity to feed this concept that hadn't quite proven out yet, but was starting to. So
Right.
now you fast forward to today, it's 25, 26 years later, and
It's unbelievable.
everything's the internet, everything. So anyway.
Yeah, the systems we were putting in our cores in those days, were smaller. The largest systems of Quest were the size of the pipes we put into people's homes now.
That's right.
Which is amazing.
That's right.
I distinctly remember you, Jody, a year ago talking about when you were in the Air Force and I think you were stationed in England maybe, and you were talking about how you controlled, I guess, maybe, I don't know if this is necessarily the right way to explain it, but you controlled how much data was being used throughout the whole base, and you were saying, I think, maybe 32 megabytes or something like that is.
No, it was. I wish it was that much. We wish it was that much. We were the gateway for like 30 bases, and we had a meg and a half. We had a T1, a megabit and a half to share, which was, more than enough in those days, to see the bulletin boards and to see CNN and read news. It loaded one line at a time, but it was the most exciting thing anybody had ever seen. Right.
And here we are. We complain when our movies don't buffer on time or can't.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah. When, I find, I live in Market right here in Brunswick, and, interacting with people, I find that I end up these days talking about how modern their equipment is. Like, they're like, man, my TV is like, I get the best resolution I've ever seen, but sometimes it just, it'll shake digitally or whatever, and you got to talk to them about upgrading all these nerdy things on your TV to make it all work with this high speed of a connection, right? So it's a weird time right now with this technology. But
it's wild.
Yeah, and then Steve didn't touch on this, but he kind of did. He was saying, I got in telecom and I can't leave it, and it's really the same thing for us. It's kind of like, if you grow up in a religion, those people from that religion seem familiar and seem like home to you. And, telecom's really all I've ever known, and really Steve's all we've ever known. And we love telecom people. We love the culture of telecom service providers. You heard him say it, and you heard me say it. We were kind of born in the competitive age in the 90s into telecom, and every company then had big dreams and big checkbooks to build out, networks that people could only envision. So, we're of that, we're of that ilk. That's why, we can go to, the Okaloosa counties of the world and Glenn counties and say, man, I see tomorrow. Let us come build this. It can be something great. Right. And so, yeah, I think that says a lot about where we are and where we came into the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. But believe it or not, 18 months ago, or right around November of 2022 is when we first started construction.
Right, that's right.
So we are quite a ways down the road, and really, I would say, in the middle of our construction and build out of our infrastructure. How do you think we've done?
Well, I mean, the market is what we have to go by, and they say we're doing well, in response to what we're offering. As far as our investors go, we continue to have great investor confidence, right? The private equity fund that backed us initially has expended everything they've committed to us now, which is about $250 million. And we've invested that in our markets already in this 18 months. And JP Morgan was kind enough to extend a debt facility to us to borrow from them an additional $250 million to really complete what we've committed to in these communities in Florida and Georgia, which would mean most of the coast of Georgia and pretty much all of the Panhandle coast of Florida, which I think is a huge mark to be making, in 18 months, first of all. And then if you look at the extent of what we think we'll be building this in probably 36 months, we really will be making a huge difference if we stay on plan. So great job, Team LiveOak. Great job to these communities that not every year do you have $100 million, $150 million infrastructure project in your community. I mean, these are once every 10 years, once every 20-year kind of things. And they've responded well. They've been great partners. They've really enabled a lot of the high speed growth that we need to deploy the infrastructure effectively. Yeah, so overall, A plus. What do you think, Steve?
Oh, I echo all that. And then, in addition to what Jody's talking about, Jody and I have been real intentional about whatever we say we're going to do, we do. And we had said we're going to hire and we're going to create new jobs, not temporary jobs, but like real career jobs.
Right.
You're one of them, G, in these areas, and hire local people to fill it. And we have exceeded that. So
Yeah.
where we'd said we've hired, 50, we've hired 100. And that's great to see. And that, I think that's also reflected in, in the short term we've been at LiveOak, we had a VP of People, Jim Powers. We've been awarded a Great Place to Work twice, certified, which is a thing because the first year we did it, we were small, and now we move up to the next bracket. And then also, one of Fortune's, top 100 small businesses to work at, which was, that's a testament to the culture that we're trying to build at LiveOak. And that's what Jody and I want to resonate with the community is we understand this is, it's a construction project, and this is the hardest part of it. It is the building part and the trying to get it. But the customers that are on the service, they experience it. And we want them to know this is what a local technology company can be in these areas, And so I think we've done I give us an A for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
but I'm biased.
We're very biased, but I tell people all the time it's better felt than telt. So sign on up and try it.
Right.
We find that at least 8 out of 10 people that try our service are anxious to tell their friends about it, and the other 2 are happy. Give us a try, and I think that'll kind of tell you the rest of the story.
Yeah. Quick follow up. So, in that 18 months, obviously, you think we've done great. Are you guys at all surprised at some of the achievements that we've been able to accomplish over these 18 months, like our rate of progress? Because that's a huge talking point amongst us where we say, like, what we've done in the past 18 months is unheard of. We're setting a standard. What do you guys think of that? And has it surprised you at all?
The whole thing's shocking to me, Garrett, to be honest. You were here early on. You've watched this unfold, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that this was a spreadsheet literally 2 years ago, and now it's 125, 130 employees, and this much invested in these communities is nothing short of a miracle. Operationally, financially, every aspect you'd look at for a healthy business. This business has achieved it, but it's a testament to the employees we've hired. I mean, Steve and I are just some telecom nerds. There's people like you that really make up the heart of LiveOak. Meet one of our technicians. Like, most people do not want to meet the technician from our competitors. People are anxious to meet our technicians. They're super happy, and creating a culture here that it's overused a lot, where you say we're really focused on excellence, but we do challenge our employees and try to enable everybody here, every team member at LiveOak, to strive for excellence. And dag nabbit, y'all believed us. Dag nabbit, you took us serious, right? So Jen's winning awards. Lou, in construction, Lou Martinez and his team, like, from nothing to, we have 52 crews some days, running wide open in these markets. They build like crazy. To Steve and sales, each month is a record number of orders that we're receiving. Every aspect's really making this a great company, and just so proud of their effort there, everybody's efforts there.
Talking about our team, so again, 18 months ago, we were around probably 30 to 40 employees in total, and now we're well over 100. Steve, you talked about that. Jody, you just kind of touched on it a little bit. Yeah. What do you think of our growth, and what do you think that it reflects on where we're headed?
I mean, I'll answer, but I want to hear Steve on this too. We want to create career jobs, like Steve said. We want to, it's not just a job here. Like we'll give you a career path. We want you to be here forever. And because of that, we are very cautious about our growth. Okay, we could probably justify a lot more employees, to be honest. But we want to build the right culture and the right team so that we can continue to pay more than the average, uh, continue to offer benefit packages that are way above the norm, and create really insulated culture here of career jobs. And so I don't measure success on how many people we have necessarily, but the fact that we have as many as we do is amazing. And everybody that we're adding right now is here to take orders or deliver service.
Mhm.
And so it's really creating a lot of opportunity in these markets for new careers. So that's a great mark of success. What do you think about it, Steve?
I think that the amount of growth is kind of a testament to two things. One, because what we're doing in the community is what we said we'd do. The people
Right.
we'd hire and the services that we'd offer them in the way we'd offer them. And then I think that part it's hard to quantify that. Jody mentioned it. It comes across in things where 8 out of 10 said I'd recommend you to someone, which is a big deal. When our competitors are probably lucky to get 1 or 2 on a good day. So that's a big deal. But also, I think that the pace of construction, what Jody's talking about, deploying that many crews, that much fiber, it really is, the whole operation really is shock and awe. And it takes special people to do that. In the beginning, you got to have people that have faith in you and the business plan. We do. Like our investors believed in us. And then we have people like the first 20 or 30 that believe in us. They don't. Thankfully, they don't know who we are. They're going to go off what we say we're going to do, right? And then you start doing it, and that's where we are now, where we're getting people that really have high sets of skills that are moving to the area. Or we have, we're attracting the right talent. Like Jody said, we've got, top technicians from competitors, lining up to work here because, they get it. They understand. We understand that I guess I've touched on this before, but Jody and I both started our careers at the beginning of this career track. Jody was a tech, and I was in sales. I did everything, and Jody did everything too. And when you have leaders like that have done every job from the beginning to now, you have a really good perspective on how to fix things and when things go wrong, and what kind of people you need, and how to scale really. So I think. But between what we're doing in the communities and what Jody kind of mentioned, where the investment community sees, hey, that's a platform that's working. More people they want us to do more of this, and so I think it's a confirmation of that.
Yeah, and I think that perfectly segues us into this next question I have for you guys. You've talked about how you both started, at the beginning of telecom, quite literally at its origination. So in these last 2 years, we've seen a lot of growth. We've seen LiveOak change into something that maybe you guys didn't even predict it becoming. But over the last 2 years since you founded it, how have you guys changed personally and professionally? What have you realized in your careers is like, wow, this is incredible, or anything.
Right.
And Steve,
and this is a PG-13 answer. Those.
That's right. It's family show, Steve.
Family show. Yeah.
Steve, we'll
go
pick
first.
up with you on
I could go first. Look, I think that being a consultant for 7 years, you have to work a certain way. Being an operator is different, and intentional leadership is critical. And you can write it down, but it's a thing. It's something that I personally have had to look at hard and work really hard to be that every day, because people depend on you. When you're a consultant, it's different. But when you've got what we're doing here, you've got to be an intentional leader. So I think the one thing I'm not, and by the way, I'm not perfect. That's what I'm saying. This is something that I realize is important, and I realize that I've got to keep pressing on it to get better at it, because that's how we grow.
Golly, we don't have enough time in the podcast probably for me to go through everything I've learned. It's to have something growing like this and what we're exposed to this quickly in the business's life has really been amazing. I Gosh, Garrett, this is an
It's a
excellent
loaded
question
question.
that you really, I don't want to pour out my soul here or cry, so I'm trying to avoid those things. But in general, like uh, anything's possible if you're intentional. Like it really is. I think, I've been reassured of that here, and I really have been reassured. I always believe this, but you're kind of faced with it every day with this type of company is any real gain is earned. Like any real gain is earned. Like success is made up of 90% intentionality and planning. And here I am about to cry because so impressed with what the teams are doing. Like the intentionality there to get us there. But yeah, that's the lesson we're all learning in this, and I think it's humbling all of us because the market is responding to that authenticity that we're putting out there, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
our biggest challenge is to continue, to grow the company with this kind of culture and this kind of dedication to really improving these markets, right?
Yeah. And actually, I forgot to ask a question that I meant to bring up earlier before we got into this point, but thank you, too, for sharing that. Before I get into that question, it's awesome to hear you guys talk about, what you want to build with this company and where you've grown, because ultimately, obviously, that reflects on the people you hire. So as
Right.
someone that you guys did hire, I can see that, the positive leadership we get from you guys, it's awesome. So
Good.
there's that.
Good.
But back to the question I wanted to ask and I forgot to ask is some of the challenges we've gone over, because obviously construction doesn't come without its challenges. Over the last since we started construction, what are some of the challenges that we've encountered and overcome, or is there any surprising challenges that you guys didn't think we'd actually come to?
Well, we're old, thank God, so we've seen a lot. So I don't think anything's like been, thank God, caught us completely off guard. And I touched on it early on. We really tried to set expectations correctly with the counties that we started in, and and that's helped us tremendously, in planning and to be able to execute that not every provider like us experiences. Okay, it's one of the you ask our COO Shane Schilling or Lou Martinez, who we mentioned, who heads construction and field services, and they always say construction's hard. Like it's hard. You're tearing up the ground to put cable down, and there's things in the ground, and not everybody knows what's in the ground all the time. And it's a everyday battle for those teams to kind of protect everybody's safety, get the job done, and grow. Like not on top of just do what you did yesterday, but do a little bit more. you know, it has been the real challenges on that front, but I feel like our team's done a better than average response to that in planning uh, and getting us there. That would be it on the construction side. But it's always going to be challenges, and it's because, like I said, a county might have a road improvement project. They might have a traffic light installation project if they're a smaller county like Glenn County or Okaloosa, like as far as populations go. But they're not going to have, hey, we're going to go in everybody's yard this year project. Like we're literally going to be
Right.
in everybody's yard, everybody in the county. They don't have these projects every year, so it's hard to staff for that. And if you don't have it every year, like you can't really staff to get it done in a year, because what do you do with everybody after you're done, right? These
Yeah.
kind of questions come up. These kind of existential things come up. So it's been important that we did plan with them and we found solutions with these communities, and we move forward. But that was the challenging part of construction that I think we've had to learn.
Yeah, and I feel like mostly I live in Okaloosa County, so I interact with most of our municipalities and
Right.
city governments and county governments here. But I feel like they've stepped up fairly well. I mean,
Absolutely.
they haven't seen a
Yeah.
project like this, and
Yeah, I mean,
God knows how long.
we're terrifying to somebody. I mean, just in honesty, like it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot to ask of local resources to locate infrastructure. If we have days where we do 7 miles of construction in a neighborhood, not just a single neighborhood, but across all the neighborhoods we're in. We might do 7, 8 miles in a day of construction, and the gas company has to locate all the gas underground for those many miles. And depending on who does the water and the sewage, they have to actually put flags down so that we don't hit that, every day, 5, 7 miles. So it is impact on the community as far as, local municipalities and utility providers. And they are more than equipped to do it. They're doing a great job. But we are terrifying. Just the sheer volume that we need to move at. But really thankful for what we have right now.
Yeah, Steve, you have any thoughts on?
I would say I agree with everything on the construction front. We deal with that, every day, and we get better at it, I believe. I think one of the things that is a challenge, and we kind of identified this early on when we talk about the services we offer in the packages, how misled a lot of customers have been for so many years, having to buy an upload or a download speed, having data caps, having, strange contracts, and it incents the customer to have to go through all these. But by the way, as a customer myself, do not enjoy that, wrangling, providers around stuff. So when we talked about our packages, we try to be transparent. And I'd say one of the challenges maybe potentially too it is that simple, but that was completely intentional. Like, where the packages are priced and how customers can pick them and make it easy. No data caps, no contracts. Like if you don't like it, you're not going to stick around. And that level of transparency can be hard sometimes, I think, to process. And it's something that we struggle with it's Jody's got it right. If you look at, if people are upset with us, it's typically in the construction phase. Once they're on, they're like, this is great. Like, now there are people that say you can come tear my yard up today. If I can get the service,
tear the
you
yard
come
up.
today. I don't care what happens. But yeah, I mean, I think that's constantly trying to help educate and inform our customers, our communities about what these services are, and they really are what we say they are. And you got to do it a lot because today's world is very complicated for marketing. People get hit with a lot of messages.
There's a lot of deception out in the world today,
a lot of deception.
Right? And
yes,
Steve brings it up, and we say this to each other often. It's I can't help myself. I'm on social media all the time. I cannot stop reading, what people write
it's
about.
Personal.
The company.
Yeah.
Take it personally. I cry overnight, but it'll be fine.
Sometimes
I'm happy. But anyway, back to the story. I see everybody's comments out there, and I tell Steve it's kind of like, you meet someone who came out of a bad relationship because they're like, they're saying they're giving price for life, but what does that really mean? Is it price for life or not? Well, we said price for life. We have a contract that says that, right? But that's almost too straightforward. People are like, there's got to be a catch, right? Or we say, everything's included for $55 and for $100 and for $135, depending on which package you pick. Everything's included. You don't have to rent anything from us. You don't have extra charges. Like that's all there. And, they're on social media saying, how much is the rent on
What's the
device?
catch?
Although we say, we really are battling what our industry has done to everyone who uses it. We've all experienced it. I recently, I moved to Georgia last year, but I recently turned off a cable connection I had in Texas at an old house. It took me about 6 months because I didn't want to go through the brain damage to disconnect. Like
Yeah.
it was that bad. Like it was 2 hours to say, please turn this off. I don't need this anymore. Right. And we are not going to be that company. You're going to, when you call us, you're probably going to have my accent. I'm sorry. We're local.
Yeah.
But I can't apologize for being local. If you don't want a contract, that's great. We have that service. If you want some type of agreement, we can do that. But we are definitely completely transparent with everything we're offering, and there are no tricks to our marketing plan. We believe, and we say it all the time, profitability is the reward for a job well done. Like, so we just want to do a complete job, and we believe we'll have a healthy business. We don't have to trick you to have a healthy business.
Yeah, I think I equate canceling cable and your TV is basically like going to the gym to cancel your membership. Where
Oh
they
yeah,
make you sign a paper. It's like you failed your fitness
yeah,
goals. You're like, damn it, yeah, I
I
did.
know. Yes, I did. I'm a failure.
Right. I
Disconnect
just
me.
want to write a check and get out of here.
Yeah,
I mean,
how
Yeah,
do I? What's the
don't
magic
judge me.
words? I think I said that. What are the magic words to
Right.
make this stop now?
yeah.
Yes.
There's a funny story. Actually, I tried calling the gym membership that I'm a member to, and I haven't gone in like 3 or 4 months. And I called. I was like, I just moved. Anyway, I can just cancel without coming in. They're like, no, you got to be in. I'm like, I'm trying not to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah. So moving on, we had an exciting announcement, and Jody, you shared it on LinkedIn, and then we've shared it on our socials about we recently received an additional $250 million in funding.
Right.
So for those of us that may not know and or what that means and how significant that is for us in terms of our goals in the future, what does that mean for LiveOak, and how do you explain that to us?
It's real straightforward. We received capital from investors, which were a private equity fund, to get started. Infrared Capital Partners. They're based in New York, and we've invested that capital, and we still want to grow. There's still markets that want to see us grow, and we just need more capital for the next 18 to 24 months to continue to grow into these markets we intend to. And so we went out to the market to see if we could basically take out a loan, just like you would if you wanted to build something. If you wanted to build a house, you go take out a loan. And that's basically what we did. We went out to the commercial banks and said, look, we've invested 250 million in these markets. These markets have responded well. It's a good business plan. And, the largest bank in the world, JP Morgan, stepped up to basically, issue that loan to us. So now we have something that's going to give us additional working capital to complete, Walton, Bay, Okaloosa counties in Florida, to round out Glenn and Camden and the coast there on Chatham here in Georgia that we've announced. It really bridges us to a point where, we're generating cash flow to pay for operations long term. So it really takes a critical step. It funds a critical stage for us to get to self-sustainability in the long run and be the regional provider that we've always intended to be long term.
Yeah. And then to kind of quell some of the confusion, because we still get a lot of messages on social media, whether they're comments or direct messages, from people that are curious on how we're paying for this. Now, obviously, we are privately funded. But that doesn't necessarily mean that message is out to everybody. That they know that. So, Steve, you might be able to provide some insight on this.
Yeah.
We are a privately funded company. What does that mean, and why is that different from a company that may be getting funds from government?
Yeah, we have investors just like you have investors across a lot of different industries. They have capital and they want to invest it and they want a return on that capital. In the U.S. market, it's a $1 trillion business, telecommunications, and if you look at the last 5 or 10, especially the last definitely 10, but the last 5, tremendous amount of investment from private investors into the space. So when you do that, when we built this plan, we built it based on We built the plan. Jody said it before. We weren't shopping a business plan. We had a client that was private equity that says we want to do this. We built a plan for private equity to invest in us and say, this is what we would do. This is what your expected return on investment would be. That's how we did it, or that's what we did. Now, when we did that, there are federal subsidies available, grants. There's been programs over the years, but there's a variable to getting those. There's no guarantee that you're going to get those, and that's not, in our experience, a way. It's an accelerant. It shouldn't be your business. You shouldn't
Plan.
stake your business on that. And even though there's lots of companies that have done that, so that was one of the things initially that we did in the beginning. That's not to say we won't go after those funds. If the federal government is issuing those funds and they need to issue them to responsible parties, they're going to do what they say they're going to do. And if we have an opportunity to participate in that, because we will apply the money the right way, then we will, absolutely.
And just to kind of hop on this real quick, Steve, and also in specifically grant money. The federal grant program is to offset the extremely high costs that are required to build rural broadband networks. And it would be impossible to build your business plan on grants because it only offsets the cost to build. It does not cover the cost to build.
That's right.
So, if it normally costs you $1 to build past a home as an infrastructure provider, and these rural areas cost $3 to build past a home, they would only offset that by $2. You still have to have the dollar that it costs to build past the home. So
still some skin in the game.
You're absolutely still making the same investments that you would be in a larger market. There's no part of our business plan. If you're talking to people that's their business plan, I'd be questioning that.
Yeah. But I'd say that, go back to the investment. I mean, there's companies that invest in real estate. There's real estate development companies that buy large tracts of land and they say, we're going to put up housing. We're going to build thousands of homes because we've identified this area as a high growth area. Crestview is a great example of that. Parts of Glenn County have a significant amount of real estate development. This is no different than that. This is just when Jody and I are looking at the analysis of where we wanted to build, we were looking for certain demographics. We were looking for places that had high growth, had good local investment, high rate of businesses that were owned and managed locally, but also were underserved. So I think sometimes on the internet, there's a misconception. This was intentional. These places checked a lot of boxes and they fit the business model that we built for an investor to put money in, and obviously they're going to get a return at some point. And if you look at the telecom market, it's companies. There are other platforms like ours, and there's some consolidation in the space that's going to be happening because they want. This is considered digital infrastructure. This is it, and that's a relatively I would say new term. I think people have been investing in telecom, but calling it that is a new thing. So just like any other investment, but yeah, it's Jody mentioned, we have a good partner. They sit on our board. I think Jay Crawford's, he was a special weapons officer in the Navy, and he runs infrared in the United States. So went to Texas A&M, lives in New York. So we have great people that have invested in us and spend their time making sure this investment's going to pay off for all of us, including the communities and the employees and stakeholders. So.
Yeah. But moving on to the next point, there's something that I think is super important for us. So the FCC had a ruling, I can't remember exactly when, but it was a good amount of time ago, where they wanted to prioritize transparency amongst some of the ISPs throughout the nation. Because as both of you have talked about, there is some healthy skepticism amongst the consumer and the ISP. So one of the things that they put in was the idea of a nutrition label. And this is something that we've been working on behind the scenes, but I wanted to get you guys' comments on it because for the larger providers, they've had to publish their nutrition labels. And some of the smaller providers like us aren't required necessarily until October, but we're pushing to get them out earlier just to show that we truly are a better option and what fiber does compared to your traditional cable and coax connection. But in terms of the nutrition labels, what do you think the FCC aims to accomplish with this? And then how do you think moving forward it's going to be something that's actually sort of enforceable and ensuring that the consumers are actually getting what they are buying and paying for?
Right. I think it's a great step. I think, technology companies have sold technology for a long time to consumers. And there's a lot of, I think it's very difficult for the average consumer today to understand, connectivity in a way that they can do an apples to apples comparison. The same reason you have nutrition labels on food, right? Like, because I'd live off ices and chili dogs if we didn't have those. And we tell everybody it's healthy, right? It's the same thing. They're going to show that 5G wireless is not comparable to fiber optic to your home, and they're going to show that the cable technologies is vastly different than the fiber technologies and things like this. And the consumer will have the data they need to make an educated decision. That's all this can do. Now, is it perfect? No. Is it going to come out of the gate where everybody's super honest and it's measurable and the consumer can go to the bank that it's all on the up and up? No. That's just how these things work in regulated industries. There's very, very large providers who their networks can't possibly be performance wise the same in every market. Things like this they have to overcome. So I'm not saying there's bad actors. It's just this is what's got to happen. It's got to evolve, and it will evolve. But I think it's more than anything immediately going to show the simplicity of the modern fiber optic providers and the quality of our networks in light of what's available. And then we're going to in a spirited way look at the challenge process for those that we feel aren't advertising correctly on these things, and try to drive some evolution in that space as much as a little provider like LiveOak can do. But we've got some pretty good engineers here, so it should be fun.
Yeah. Steve, got any thoughts on it?
No, I think Jody said it right. I think it's just like food. It's going to make it easy to compare some of the basic things, which I think a lot of consumers have questions about.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's definitely going to highlight the value of fiber optic. Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So I got two more questions, but
Good.
one's kind of I'll get to that one in a little bit. It's kind of funny, but so our why is to improve the quality of life in our communities through technology. Over the last 2 years, or since we started construction, has you guys' perspective on that changed at all? Or do you think it's still just as important as it was when you wrote it 2 years ago?
It's probably more important now than it ever has been. In the beginning, it's a statement. I'm glad we did it. It was a good exercise that we did early on that was some great advice we got. So we got the why figured out pretty quick. But it comes back to what I said earlier. We said we're going to do these things, and now we got to do them. And the why is we do want to impact people's lives, and now we have the chance, to do it. Now the service is there. Now there is an expectation on what that service can do for them, and so
Right.
yeah, I think it's more important now than ever because now we're living it, we're walking it out.
Yeah, I think Steve summed it up well. If anything, the vision for how we can improve it even past just, putting broadband in every home and business has become a lot sharper. You know, we're finishing up Okaloosa County and Glenn County either, late this year or early next year. And I think we'll make a victory lap. I think we'll see the public beaches have Wi-Fi everywhere. If you just dream with me for a second, a world where your mobile phone works everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And you can connect. I've been in these markets. I live in one of them, and my mobile phone doesn't work all the time. So we need to kind of fill in those patches with a modern digital infrastructure that, we understand everybody has a mobile phone and needs to connect with those things. And so that's another way we can improve. As we deploy that, we're going to be working with municipalities and first responders. There's a lot, we're going to be able to do there, I think. to help them privately for their private networks and connectivity around these counties and cities that we're in. And those are the silent improvement projects we'll do. We're not the type to go brag about these, but I'll tell you the community stakeholders know we're here to help in that way.
Absolutely. All right, now I can't go one full podcast without asking a dumb question. I think it's a law for me, and I'm good at it too. So,
Sure.
are you guys podcast? Like, do you guys like listening to podcasts at all? Do you do that a lot?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so do you guys listen to the Joe Rogan podcast at all?
Yeah. I have a problem. They won't let me share it much around.
So Jody, you might know the question I'm going to ask once I start doing it. So I think it was I was.
No, Terrence Howard is crazy. I will say that. I mean, like if this is what.
I don't know. I don't
Crazy
even
Mad
remember
Genius.
which podcast I was listening to, but I was driving to Georgia, and I usually don't listen to podcasts, but I was like, I'll listen to Joe Rogan because I'll just find someone that's entertaining. But
Sure.
he brought up something that was just funny, and I was like, it worked perfectly for what you guys are. And so I don't remember who his guest was, but he was asking, or they're talking about the Roswell, New Mexico, like alien crash and whatnot in the 1950s, I think. And they were saying that soon after is when fiber optics were invented.
Oh yeah, I'd heard that. Yeah.
So my question has to be: do you think we got fiber optics from the aliens?
If you met any of those early guys from Bell Labs, you'd be convinced we got them from aliens.
1000%.
Put it that way. It's absolutely plausible. Why not? But they didn't give us all the secrets because we keep trying to improve it. So I don't know. But yeah, why not? What do you think, Steve? You think there's aliens?
I was going to agree with. I'm just trying to think back to some of the people I worked with, and I would say I definitely
They
think
might be
there's
aliens.
whatever the new term for alien UAP is. That's
Yeah.
I kind of think back to like Men in Black, where it's like they just held like regular jobs, like they were like the postman, and all of a sudden they take their head off, and it's just an alien.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Sure, it came from aliens. If it did come from aliens, then there's NHI working at Sienna and stuff these days, these optical companies, to make that work, because I think we've met a couple. So
yeah.
Yeah, we may not be the Joe Rogan podcast, but there's no way I wasn't going to bring up aliens in some sort of podcast. So.
Appreciate that. Wow.
It's good.
But
Great question.
Thank you. Thank you for taking this time to talk about everything that is LiveOak Fiber and aliens. Can't forget that one.
Awesome.
But is there any last words you want to send to the good people?
I'd just say thank you. Thanks for all of your support, and we're always here. We're always local. Call us, whatever you need on the telecom front. We're not looking for new friends, but we're looking for new customers, and we're always looking to make friends that way. So anyway, reach out if you need anything. We're here. Steve?
We're grateful. I think Jody said it right. We're grateful, and we're humble each day to be able to do this in these places. We really are. So thank you.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, G.
Thank you for tuning into The Fiber. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe. If you want to learn more about LiveOak Fiber, visit us at liveoakfiber.com.